Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Dowdy. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for the Northeastern Regional Information Center at Capital Region BOCES, and I'm here with Monica Statiel. You want to introduce yourself again, Monica?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Monica Sutil. I'm the program manager for data security and privacy at NARIC.
And so this is the second in our series of webinars about EdLaw 2D and student data privacy and security. And this one focuses a little bit more on teachers and what teachers can do related to this. So one of the things in the law and in the regulations is about teacher and principal data. So it's required under the law to protect teacher and principal APPR data. So that's an important thing to consider because I know we've been talking about student data privacy and security,
Yeah.
but there is an application to the adults in the buildings too. So it's just, I guess you can feel comforted knowing that the law requires the protection of your data too. And then, in terms of what this looks like in the classroom, we mentioned it in our previous webinar, but this idea of following a process for getting software. So, there's no such thing as free. So, if you're signing your class up or yourself up for some sort of free software, you can be sure that that company is gathering your data, mining your data, probably selling your data in order to make money for themselves. So this it's really important. I can't stress enough how important it is to only use software and programs that have been approved by your district. That is the best way to protect yourself as an educator, to protect your students, to protect the district, quite frankly.
I'm sorry. I do want to talk about that a little bit. I just heard you say protected district. So I want to expand on that a little bit. You've been in education a long time. I believe you've even been a superintendent of a very large school district in the past. Is that true?
Deputy superintendent, but yeah, it was a
Deputy
pretty big
superintendent.
district.
Okay, so you still knew. How many times did you have a teacher sign a contract for you at your district?
Sign a contract, like enter
Sign a
the
contract.
contract, like
Yeah.
make a contract with a vendor.
Yeah.
Yeah, never. That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. But do you know that every time a teacher clicks that I accept, I read the terms of service, any of that, that they are signing a contract on behalf of the district?
Right, because only the Board of Education enters into a contract with a vendor. So again, that's why I can't stress enough how important it is to not put yourself at risk by uh, accepting terms for something that you really shouldn't be. So we talked before about personally identifiable information and how important that is, and to really understand at a deep level that what you can share and what you can't. I think ultimately the messages err on the side of caution and don't share anything that doesn't need to be shared. And then also be thinking, because now that we're working remotely, be thinking about what you put in email too, because if the email is about a student, it does become part of that student's educational record. So just be mindful of that as you're working through that.
I'm going to talk a little bit about, I've been doing presentations on this for about a year and I've heard it from a lot of people. And so what is this actually going to look like for you in the classroom? You're going to have, now some of you are going to say, well, my district doesn't do anything. You're right. They might not at this time, but I can tell you they are moving forward. They're putting processes into place on how you procure software. Um, and it might be different. It might be a little painful to get to where you need to be as a district. You know, do you really need six different pieces of software for third grade teachers to do ELA? Maybe not. So maybe that requires a little bit of communication, like which one do we really like and which one do we want to use? Um, so whatever procurement process that your district decides to put into place, that's what you need to be following. And there'll be changes. And some of you might already have that in place and this won't apply to you, and that's great. But let me just say, I've heard from a couple teachers who have this procurement process in place. I think the first question we need to ask before anything is, does this software even collect PII? A lot of software we use doesn't collect PII or doesn't need to. Do you really need to fill out those 20 pieces of data to make a little robot move? Is that really necessary? Would it be so bad to give? Well, I had one teacher suggest to me that when her students come in at the beginning of the year, she gives them like a code, a nickname, and that's their cubby number, it's their desk number, It's their login to their accounts number. Think outside the box. How can you have a pseudo identity that your students can use? Um, and maybe that will solve your problems. If they're logging in using this pseudo identity, you don't have to worry about whether or not they're collecting PII. So you just have to be thinking outside the box on, it doesn't mean you can't use software. You just have to think different ways around not giving these companies PII.
And again, I feel like I can't stress it enough. Sure that you're only using software and products that are
Yeah,
approved by your district.
yeah.
That's our first step in this whole process. Okay, so Monica, you want to talk a little bit about cybersecurity and what we can do to protect ourselves and the network? And I mentioned the network before, and that's a big deal because that's how we do so much of our work. So much of what we do on a daily basis requires the use of our electronic information network. And so uh, what can we do as end users basically to protect that system and to protect ourselves?
Usually we don't even think about it. It's usually, the geek guys in the closet where the servers are, they're the ones that take care of the network. But statistics show that 90, well, I've heard 90 and I've heard 98. So I like to say 95 because that's somewhere in the middle. Percent of any attacks on a district or any network, I shouldn't just say district, on any network comes from phishing. And that's data. That's what's been proven. So what is phishing? Phishing is an email. It's actually a cybercrime where a person is posing as somebody that you know or a company that you know, and they're asking for information that they're going to use to steal your credit card or your bank information or PII, your usernames, passwords. There's different variations of it. And you know what? It's really easy to become a victim of phishing. You know why? Because they try to come off as somebody that you already know or that you trust, maybe a boss even. They'll disguise themselves as your supervisor and say, "Hey, I need you to do this to make this purchase." And so then you're kind of stuck like, oh, do I do it? I mean, it's my boss, right? Um, but you know what? No, don't do it. Stop, take a moment, make a phone call. So they'll either do it with a personal sense of urgency, like, I need this right away. I'm in a meeting and I don't have time. Can you purchase um, such and such for me? Or it'll be completely impersonal. Your email that you receive is, and I'm sure you've all seen these, and these are a little bit easier to detect. They'll be like, dear sir or madam. And then they'll have really bad spelling and grammar, and they'll be requesting some money or some sort of information out of you, like what bank do you go to? Um, Pay attention to the links. Lots of times if you just take your mouse and you hover over the link, and say you've got an email from Home Depot, I seem to get these all the time. Yet when I hover over the link is not Home Depot. Home Depot is nowhere in the address. So I know automatically it's a fish. And if you're not exactly sure if it's legit or not, because I've seen some really good ones, contact the person who sent it to you or the company that sent it to you and say, hey, did you just send me this? Um, that's going to be your best choice. So here's an email that,
Really, and just to kind of reinforce that, Monica,
yeah,
we can put in, and we have lots of protections on the network at NARIC, all kinds of firewalls
yep,
and monitoring software and everything. But nothing is going to protect us from somebody clicking on that link and giving their network credentials away. So
absolutely.
that it we really are as end users the first line of defense with our critical network and infrastructure.
Thanks, Mike. I should have explained that a little better because, we all have this sense of security of our network, which is great. We got smart people, they work and take care of us, and we appreciate that. But this is a business. There are people who get up in the morning and they go to an office just like our offices this is what they do, is try to find ways to get around the system. So they change the phishing. There's not like one email that goes out. They might take the emails and they change it daily. This is their job. This is how they make money. We used to think of hackers as, some kid in the basement. It's not that anymore. Now these are well-dressed people who go to offices, and this is how they conduct their business. I
Wow.
do have,
Have an
I'm sorry?
example of an email, right, for us to look at?
Yeah, I do. I do. I got this email back when I was school tool manager. It came from the school tool coordinator. So, of course, that was our general account back when we had general accounts from all of my teammates. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, one of my guys is sending me an email. Well, luckily, I didn't open it up because right next to school tool coordinator, there was a little sign that said mail to F. Romano at ctsmex.com. Well, that's not school tool coordinator at newyork.org. So that was the first indication for me. Um, Good day, all. Nobody ever talks to me like that. It would be like, hey, Monica. So I knew that that wasn't good. And then the school tool coordinator's number, which would have been our very own office number, was 702. Luckily, I was able to pick on this and realize that it wasn't legit, because when I did have it taken to our forensics team, they were able to discover that there was a nasty malware that was attached to this particular email. But if I had clicked on it, I would have compromised all of NERIC's network. And so I really like
Let's
this
just
little.
say, let's be clear, that would have been bad.
It would have been really bad, really bad. So, we do a lot of training around NERIC too, because it only takes one of us to keep these guys in business. Here's Dilbert. Uh, you know, he gets an email that says enter your bank account. He's like, nah, scam, got it. Somebody else, enter your bank account number. Yeah, nah, scam, got it. Third person, enter your bank account. Yeah, account number. Okie dokie. It just takes one. And, no matter how much we try, our system is blocking many a day that somebody has clicked on.
So besides being really attentive to emails and things like that and not clicking on stuff that's nefarious, talk a little bit about passwords.
Oh, yeah. God, they shouldn't be so hard, should they? Passwords are hard. Um, and they're changing. They used to be like you need to make it they change every 45 days or every 30 days, and they shouldn't be so hard, but they have to be, because I don't have it in this presentation, but there's a little chart that I have that, a typical password can take 7 seconds to break. That's it. And, that's crazy. So, what the latest recommendations are for passwords, instead of naming it after your dog and a cat and a number, which is always like what everybody does, um, don't pick a word. Do a long password, but make it a phrase and replace the letters with like either a character or a number. So, like an O is actually a zero. So, some of the examples that I just made up is, what time is your lunch at your school? Lunch is 12:03. Okay. You can use spaces. And that's another thing that I think people don't realize. In your passwords, you can put spaces in. So make a sentence that starts off with capital L, lunch is 12:03 exclamation point. There you go. I love apples.
I didn't know that you could use spaces.
Absolutely. You can use
Oh,
spaces. Um, So, pick a sentence that you can think of that you'll be easy to remember, because don't put it on a post-it. Do not put it on a post-it. And we all have a lot of passwords. I know. I myself have a lot of passwords. So what do I do? And, I definitely recommend that districts invest in getting a couple of pieces of software. And I hate to use that because I'm not like a salesperson, but I use a password manager, and there are some free ones out there as well, but you can't do that at home, at school. So you need to talk to your tech director about that. But password management is great. I I probably have 100 different accounts that I use with all my different hats. And I just use a password manager and that kind of stores it for me. Another thing that I think districts are going to see more and more of is two-factor authentication, where you log in and then you pick up your phone because you got a text that you have to use the code on your phone to add to your password requirement. So I think we're going to see more and more people doing multi-factor authentication. The last password suggestion is we are almost done.
And we are.
We
Almost done.
are. We are. But there's one more thing. It's one more thing that I want to talk about. And this is really easy. This will probably be the one thing that you'll remember. Lock before you leave your computer. Oh my gosh, folks, I can't tell you how many calls I get from districts that say the teacher left the room for 5 minutes, and when they came back in, a student had gone in and done such and such. So please, please, please lock your computers. It's very simple. Windows plus L, or if you're an Apple, Control plus Command plus Q. Yeah, so
And
please keep that in
physical, in a
mind.
lot of ways, physical security is just as important as network security. So Monica brings up a
Yeah.
great point there of locking your workstation.
It's
So
all it's all blending, really. The privacy and the security, it's all blending as it should. It shouldn't be separate entities.
so so
Teachers should be working with network people. Mhm.
if people want more information about EdLaw 2D and student data privacy and security, where should we send them?
Okay. So I would never step on any district's toes. So I would say if you have some questions about what you should be doing at your district for data security and privacy, check with your DPO at your district. They'll know when trainings are coming up and they'll say, oh, hey, yeah, NERIC ESP team is having a training on such and such next Tuesday. Do you want to go? So they're going to be your point of contact with our team. So that would be who I would suggest that they reach out to, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you, Monica. This was a good conversation, and hopefully it helped people understand the law and the regulations better and give them some practical tips on how they can protect themselves and protect their districts and children. So appreciate your time.
And we'll see you next time.